And joining us now to talk a little bit more about the president's move, everything that's been going on with these protests, is Ashley Hubner from the National Immigration Justice Center's Immigrant Children's Protection Project. Thank you for coming in. Nice to have you.
Thanks for having me. Okay,
so let's talk about what the president wants to do here. He just announced this week he wants $2 billion for border protection. What would that mean? What can he do with this money? Is it just securing the border, or what will it entail?
Well, unfortunately, the administration continues to focus specifically on the border, and the concern is that the entire immigration system needs more resources. We need more immigration judges, we need more asylum officers, we need more clerks at the immigration court, so that there isn't such a backlog which is impacting the entire immigration system. And the more people you arrest, the more people you need to process through the system, and you need those resources to process them properly with due process and with time to apply for relief if they're eligible.
Yeah, and we've certainly seen that backlog here in Illinois. I think we're like fifth in the country in terms of cases that haven't gone to the courts. You know, you talk about border just being one aspect of it. So what else can he do? Can he, politically do to try to fix this problem? Because eventually there are some things where he's going to need congressional approval. He can't just do everything on his own, right?
Right. I mean, one thing that I think is really important is the tone of this discussion right now. The administration has continued to focus on the idea that many of these children are coming simply because they think there's been some sort of change in immigration law, which isn't accurate. And there have been numerous reports showing that these children are coming because of conditions in their home country, because the situation is so violent. And in fact, that this is a regional problem in which all of the surrounding countries around Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras are also...
It's not just Mexico, because I think a lot of people have that confused. Yeah.
Exactly. So actually, the number of children crossing from Mexico has remained consistent over the years. There's simply been an increase in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras because that is where the situation is most violent. And so really focusing on the reasons these children are coming and working on those push factors, sending resources to those countries to help improve the situation there is going to be the best way to try to prevent these children from coming in the future.
And you kind of touched on this, the fact that the situation is intensifying. We see the video of these protests really everywhere across the country. What do you notice when you talk to people who are undocumented, who have come here? Are they feeling that tension? Do they feel like they're even getting any help?
The children we speak to are primarily in the Chicago area, so they fortunately haven't dealt with some of those protests we've seen along the borders. But they're frightened, they're scared, they don't know what's happening, they don't know the process. They've taken a very traumatic journey through a very dangerous part of the world to get here. And they're coming for the most part because of the dangers in their home country, because of things they need to escape. And so our job is to provide them with as much information as we can so that they know what they're getting into, so that they can comply with our immigration laws and they can go to court as they're supposed to do under the law.
You know, one of the interesting things is that you talk about children, and I think maybe people might think, you know, they're 15, 16 years old, and that's not the case. I mean, we're talking about little kids.
Right. In many cases, we see children as young as 1, 2, 3 years old.
Crossing the border alone.
Correct. Or sometimes with their siblings. Sometimes we see young teenage mothers who are crossing with their younger children as well.
Yeah. What kind of help is there for them out here once they do get here? You know, we talk about these shelters being overloaded, that they've just had such a huge influx of children coming in that they have nowhere to put them. So what do you do with them?
Well, under the law, the children have to be transferred to a government or agency called the Office of Refugee Resettlement, where they're held in shelters until they can be released to a family member or a sponsor who can care for them. While they're in the shelters, they receive certain legal services like Know Your Rights presentations and legal screenings. But once they're released from those shelters, they have no right to appointed counsel, and very little resources are available to them to assist them through the process, which is extremely unfortunate because many of these children are eligible for relief, but they have nobody to assist them in seeking that relief.
Yeah, many of them are eligible for relief, but how long does that process take? Because it's not easy, it's not simple, and it can often take years.
Right, and that's why the immigration court needs more resources so that they can properly adjudicate these cases in a timely fashion.
Okay. Your organization has been around for a while. Give me sort of a 30-second plug information on it if people at home want to reach out to you.
Sure. The National Immigrant Justice Center provides immigration legal services for low-income immigrants in the Chicago area, and we're also heavily involved in policy and litigation work across the country. So what we do is we utilize the information that we learn from our direct services to clients to further our policy and advocacy goals.
So your role right now would be what when you hear this week the president talk about executive action, taking executive action?
Well, we've been heavily involved in advocacy with the administration about this. We're very, very concerned about changing the process by which children's cases are adjudicated and ensuring that the children have have access to legal representation and due process.
Okay. Is there a website, phone number
Yes.
to reach out?
Our organization is immigrantjustice.org, and we have many opportunities for volunteers if they're interested in assisting these children or other issues.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.